we get bored as business owners. And so we want to move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing before we actually finish executing the thing that we're on right now. And so to be able to expect the business building to be work that maybe is boring, it's not as exciting as some of the Instagram reels portray, right? System building, process building is execution work where I just need to keep my butt in the seat and do the work, get the work done. I think that's what our customers need.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to the Lessons of Entrepreneurship, the journey of reinvention. Today I have a very special guest. This is our first episode of season 5, and I have Philip Kulishov here, and he's a co-founder and board member of EBM. There's so much I want to talk to you about because I think you'll speak to our audience in a really special way today. But I'll let you introduce yourself, Philip.
Yes. Hi, it's a delight to be here. My name is Philip. Yes, I'm a co-founder, board member, like you said, at EBM Inc. I'm one of 7 partners there. So there's 7 of us, and we're building a business holding company. So we own a few different businesses together, and real estate development, construction, manufacturing, a few different locations there. So that's what we're doing in business.
Exciting. 7 partners. I need to know the backstory to how this happened.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. When people hear that there's 7 partners, they usually are surprised because it's difficult to have one partner in business a lot of the times. But in one sense, having more than 2 partners maybe becomes a little bit easier in the sense that it's not just a tug and pull because there is more voices. But yeah, for us, me and my brother together are on there. Then there are 2 other brothers together. There are 2 other friends. So a lot of it is friends and connected in that way. And a big thing that connects us fundamentally is our Christian faith. So we're all brothers, Christians in that way. And so we are building business under the lordship of Christ and unto that end. And so having that sort of vision and mission is what unites us and what keeps us together on the same page going forward.
That's amazing. I think a lot of the problems that you see when entrepreneurs are starting out, sometimes it's because it's just you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had some other people in it with you, it wouldn't be so heavy and you wouldn't be knocked out by the smallest thing. You talk about the theology of business. And I like that statement, but I said, I'll let you unpack it for us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 2 greatest commandments are to love God and love your neighbor, right? So we love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. And so that is what Jesus has commanded us to do and how to live out our life here. In a lot of ways, business falls right in line with that and even flourishes out of that. When we look at the things that God loves, the things that God cares about, things within creation that he has made, and the things that he has told us to go and take dominion, to subdue the earth, to become fruitful and productive. When we put our hands to work in loving God that way, we start to care about the things that he cares about and grow in caring about them to that extent that he cares about them as well. And the primary creation that we are to care about are other people. And business does not exist without a person caring about what you have to offer. So if you're just doing work just for yourself, that might be great and fine, but you don't have a business yet until you have a customer. That customer is a critical part of business ownership. Without having somebody who wants what you're offering, you don't have a business yet. And that customer is a person. It's that neighbor who we're called to love. Loving our neighbor is not some kind of superficial, spiritual, maybe sprinkling on top of what we do, where a lot of Christians maybe come into work and they think that the work that they're doing is maybe like neutral. It doesn't really matter, but what matters is how they treat the people. What I'm talking about is the work that we do for the people matters. We ought to be making good quality parts. We ought to be serving that customer well. So when Jesus talks about giving a cup of cold water to somebody, that good work is in that cup of cold water. Business is all about serving that customer. So I think the theology of business is in submitting to the lordship of Christ, we unleash, unfetter our effort to actually get good at serving customers well, because it's not just a contract, it's not just some kind of payment, but it's a person who derives value from what it is that we're offering. So that's maybe a sort of summary of the theology of business. We have to care about what God cares about, and we ought to serve people really well with what we're doing.
I remember when I started thinking about getting into business, and I was joining all kinds of groups, Christian groups with entrepreneurs. And I would get so frustrated because there was no differentiation between your Sunday service and your group of Christian entrepreneurs, where you are expecting that it's going to be practical aspects of how you bring that into your business and how you use your faith to work and serve in your business. I like that you have 7 team members, your partners that are also Christian entrepreneurs. How did that come to be?
In a lot of ways, it was very practical and pragmatic. So it wasn't that we started with some big vision and then tried to figure that out. It was what we needed to do next. In my case, I stumbled across this because I wanted to get married and I needed a job. And so this was 13 years ago. And so I found a little startup endeavor with a hard-headed entrepreneur who needed some help, and he had a lot going on. And so I came on board with him to help him structure and organize his business. And then that led into partnering with him in the longer term. And then as we went along, we brought on board more people who were like-minded in that way. And so it started very small, very practical, that we were just doing that next work that we needed to do. And as we learned how our faith applies to our work, we wanted to get better at doing that work. And so I think even what you're talking about regarding Christians not being able to apply their faith, or maybe having a difficult time to apply their faith into their work, where they see faith and work in this separate, maybe contrasting view, where I have my Christian life on Sundays and maybe my Bible reading time and my prayer, but then the work that I do is separate from that. I go there maybe just because it's necessary, but Jesus doesn't actually care about that work, right? People think that. People have a hard time understanding that. And so they think that in order for me to make the work matter, I need to Christianize it. So I need to demonstrate my ethics in some way. That's how I'm going to make the work matter. Or I need to use an opportunity to evangelize to my customers or to my coworkers. That's how it's going to matter. But when we realize that God created this earth and everything on it, and he loves it, he calls it good, and he wants us to be productive, then us actually doing that work is what God has intended for us. We apply our faith into work by getting very good at doing that work, right? And so it's not separate, it's not distinct. So as we were learning that together with our partners as well, we wanted to get much better at doing that work. If God cares about us being productive, then we ought to get good at being business owners, good at being business managers, good at serving customers. And so we're still on that journey, on that path. And so we're learning how to get better, and we're calling other people along with that as well.
I did read your article, and I liked what you talked about. Sometimes we think it's about Christianizing the business, and yet it's about what we're doing in the business. Is the application, the everyday, and God cares about that too. I know you also speak about the next era of business. We're in the Trump administration. The whole world is standing on their toes right now, checking every day what's new. And there's so many things that are happening in business, whether it's Trump, whether it's AI, whether it's just the global economy. From your perspective, what do you think the next era is going to look like?
Yeah, I am very optimistic and excited about the opportunity for business ownership and productivity, specifically even what Christians can do for the kingdom through business, through the economy. I think that there are different seasons of life for the Christian where maybe it's a season of battling or a season of building, right? We have to be able to do both. But even when we battle, the point of that is to be able then to build again. So we get through some kind of obstacles, and then we want to build and be fruitful and productive. So if God opens our doors to be productive, then we ought to run hard through those doors as opposed to relaxing, right? So, if things are going to get easier for business owners because there's a business-minded leader or something like that, then I don't really need to work as hard. No, that's wrong. If there's an open door, there's an opportunity, we ought to work that much harder to be able to build and do a lot of good through that. This sort of era, apart from even market conditions maybe aligning in some way, but also a certain kind of era of technology innovation. What we're seeing with AI, what we're seeing with even the blockchain economy, with controlling information through token approvals in that way, contract control. I think there's a lot that is untapped there, and things that I'm still trying to learn and discover and figure out how we could implement some of that stuff. But there is definitely a lot of exciting things that we're able to do with that. And so I think for Christians to have that sort of mindset of how can I get to work instead of just sitting on my hands waiting for that to happen. Three sort of things there. Again, market conditions allowing things to unravel to a certain extent, things like technology with AI innovations, and then figuring out how to make the blockchain economy productive with us is some of that new era that we're entering in and trying to discover as well.
It's an exciting time.
Mm-hmm.
What used to work is not going to work anymore, but that's okay because, like you said, there's a lot that's happening. We just have to learn. It's a lot of learning because everything is new to everyone. What interests you right about now in the business space?
I think a lot of what I'm trying to get at right now is to, instead of focusing on maybe some kind of dreams or visions in the future, actually getting the work done that's right in front of me. And so I think a lot of business people or maybe business minded people get ahead of themselves in that way as well, where they dream and aspire, and all those things are very good. They have a lot of visions, but what action are we taking today? How are we executing towards that? And so what I'm trying to do, what you're saying, where my mind is at, is being able to execute very well, right what's in front of me, and not get distracted maybe by some future long-term visions that are not there yet. How do I actually make progress towards those visions as opposed to just making plans and aspirations? And so that sort of execution is what I'm after and what I'm trying to get at. In our business, what that looks like with actually building those systems and processes, actually managing those people, those employees, training them up to get very good at what they're doing. That is much more ground level work where the rubber meets the road, again, as opposed to just high level, high elevation thinking and dreaming. How do we actually make this thing happen? That requires rolling up your sleeves and getting to work, getting those things done. It has a lot to do with getting into the details, getting into the mess of things, creating order out of chaos. And so a lot of my mind is there right now, building those systems, building those processes for our businesses that we own, for them to actually be productive and reliable and have true value long-term as well. It's important for a business owner to dream and have visions and aspirations, but it's equally, maybe even more so important to be focused on what's right in front of you to get that work done, to build those systems and processes and train those people to get it done. And a lot of my mind is there with that.
It's very interesting that you say that. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more, because for the entrepreneur who's just starting out and they're thinking, like you said, we can get so caught up in what it is that we want to build and bringing it down to the execution of the day, the execution of actually creating something of value. What would you say in terms of whether it's structuring your day or thinking through what needs to be done?
Yeah, for sure. I think one maybe fundamental aspect of all of this as well, as a business owner, your business is not about you, it's about your customer. And so a lot of people get into business making it about themselves. How can I manage my time? How can I make more money? How can I have more control and freedom? Those are all good things and things that a business does bring with it. But that's not the purpose, the essence of the business. The purpose of the business, again, is to serve that customer. And so for the business owner to figure out, how could I actually serve this customer? My aspirations, my dreams and visions have a lot to do with what the business can accomplish for me, maybe. And again, those are good incentives. But how to execute today is to focus on, what does the customer need me to do? How can my business serve this target audience, whether it's current customers or potential customers that I'm trying to pursue? How can my business serve them better? How can I bring better value to them? And so instead of starting with maybe being grabby, what the business can do for me, start by giving. What can I do for that customer? And then with that, again, a lot of that work that it brings isn't very exciting. It's more boring because it is down in the weeds, getting those systems and processes figured out. And so you end up just having to keep your butt in the seat to get the work done. And so we get bored as business owners. And so we want to move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing before we actually finish executing the thing that we're on right now. And so to be able to expect the business building to be work that maybe is boring, it's not as exciting as some of the Instagram reels portray, right? System building, process building is execution work where I just need to keep my butt in the seat again and do the work, get the work done. I think that's what our customers need. And so when I'm focused on that action, I'm focused on, okay, for this next 13 weeks, for this next week, today, for this hour, what task, what action, what work do I need to get done in order to move the ball forward, in order to make actual progress in that direction? And so taking it maybe smaller bits at a time to actually move forward, as opposed to just, again, looking at these big aspirations that are neither here nor there.
Because of the Instagram reel culture, we
Mm-hmm.
do get carried away with, ooh, blockchain, ooh, AI is the
Right.
run away from the actual work of sitting still.
Right.
And you get carried away with wanting to know the next thing.
Right.
And rather than how does that help? It's fine if it's blockchain, if it's going to help your customer. And if you're
Right.
thinking about the customer and how you can improve, and they can tell because they're watching and they see, oh, wow, last time it was like this and this time there's a significant improvement. They want to stick with that kind of a business.
Exactly right.
So
Yeah. Trends will come and go, right? And so you have what's the next hot thing? What's the new thing that people are on, whether it's content creation or AI or blockchain, exactly what you're talking about. But how does that apply to my actual work to not get distracted by these shiny objects that are out there? These are very good tools that we could put to work if it's applicable, if it's relevant. And sometimes it takes imagination, creativity for a business owner to figure out how to get productive. A business owner does need to, what you said earlier, understand when technology is changing the landscape, when what the market conditions are, and how I could make that productive, make it useful. But that filter is your customer base. How can this serve my customer base? Or if I even need to redirect my business to serve my customers differently or to serve potential customers better. Again, focusing on that execution, focusing on that action, I think is what keeps our head in the game.
I always love to hear people's business stories, experiences of when things went awesomely right and when things went awesomely wrong, because it gives a sense to the listener. Sometimes you think, maybe I'm not smart enough for this, or maybe I'm not cut out for this. And it's a different ball game being in business. If you're free, you could share anything, Philip, and I think our audience would be happy to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what I've been saying, I'm saying from my own mistakes, from my own problems that I caused. When I did not keep my butt in the seat, when I was chasing aspirations or visions and jumping from one thing to the next. These are lessons that I had to learn from my own experience. And I've lost millions of dollars because I chose to jump to the next thing instead of staying focused on what's in front of me, instead of building out the process and the system to making sure it's completely done and the business is sustainable. Maybe handing it off and abdicating too soon in that way, I think is a lot of my lessons that then I had to pay for to come back and build those systems and build those processes and train those people. Keeping my head in those details, in that nitty gritty, is some of those issues. When I'm relying on either my own tribal knowledge or other people's tribal knowledge in our business, then our business gets too complex, too big. It becomes too big for just one person to be able to handle. We hire new people and they make other mistakes. But if I would have built those systems, those processes, our customers would have been served better. And so a lot of those sorts of stories are connected to me not holding on longer to get those things nailed down. And I think where I've seen success, where I've seen progress is when I've put in the work to build those things out. When maybe metaphorically, when I've pulled those weeds and plowed those fields, right, that's when the crops start to grow and sprout. But if I neglect that work, I'm not getting any sort of fruit that I'm after. And so again, I talk about these things because they're close to my heart. These are issues and mistakes that I've made and that I have had to pay for in that way as well.
When you talk about taking your time to make sure that the foundations are right and things are working as they should, because there's that sort of tension between you've got to grow slow and steady. At the same time, there's this entrepreneurship needs speed for success. Dealing with those two ends, because sometimes we can be all speed and we don't want slow because we think the speed is the success. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you balance those two? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to move as fast as I can, but as slow as I need to. And so to be able to continue moving forward, if the door is open in front of me, I want to run through it. Keep going, keep going. But to move as slow as you need to, it means you're paying attention to your domain. When the book of Proverbs talks about having a good count on the condition of your herds and flocks and fields, and that sort of thing, when you're moving fast, you're still responsible to be attentive to the condition of your business. How are my employees? Are they happy? Are they frustrated? Are they exasperated? How are my customers? Are they being served well, or are there a lot of problems that continue to arise? How is my time at home with my family, with my spouse, with my kids, right? Are they not seeing me? Am I not spending enough time with them? And so I think when we're moving too fast, when we're not moving as slow as we need to, that's when those sorts of wheels start to rattle and shake and fall off the cart. And a lot of people are not paying attention to that until it's already maybe too late. We need to move as slow as we need to. However, also, I think you're exactly right, where there is a sense of speed that is important for business owners to be able to execute and to serve. And in one sense, why I really appreciate business and profit institutions is because there is an innate sense of accountability built into doing the work, right? If I'm doing work for a nonprofit or for a government agency, that's also necessary work and there's a place for that. But there is no direct accountability built into that. Where in profit, if I'm doing a bad job, I'm going to lose money. I have to close down the business. And so I can directly see when I'm doing a bad job. And so because there's that sort of maybe fire under me that is naturally there, it forces me to move fast as well. And so I can't just continue sitting, enjoying what I've already built. I have to continue to move forward and continue building more and moving quickly. Market conditions change, new customers come up, customer problems arise from existing accounts. I have to move quick because there's actual tangible issues on the line that will affect me, right? And so in that way, I move as fast as I can, but as slow as I need to.
I love that you brought that into every aspect of life because think about you go out with your family and you're trying to go somewhere fast and you walk so fast you leave the kids behind. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
When you're with the kids, you've got to slow it down. Your fast is them moving as fast as they can.
Right.
And then if you're on your own, of course, that's a different thing that you can move at a certain speed.
Right.
I
Exactly.
like that recognition of your leadership to your family, to the people you work with, to your employees, and in the marketplace as well. Philip, I know you are writing a book and it's called The Transcendent Bottom Line.
Right.
What is that about?
Yes, that's a project I have in the works right now. And so that sort of worldview thinking that I briefly talked about today, where to be able to connect the bottom line of our business, our profit making endeavor, right? We're after making a profit. The bottom line is that net profit. To be able to connect it to transcendence, to the Lordship of Christ. How does the Lordship of Christ affect the way we pursue and make profit? How does it affect the way we run our business? How does the Lordship of Christ affect the way we do productive work? And so my thesis, my argument is that submitting to the Lordship of Christ liberates us to run hard in our work, liberates us to pursue profit, that it's not profit or people. Those things are not in competition. Profit serves people. And so one and the other are in line together. And when we submit to Christ as Lord, we can start to see how that works and how a for-profit institution, a business with the bottom line, is able to be successful and competent and thrive in that sort of worldview.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed reading your blog. I'll put a link at the bottom of Philip's blog. A lot of thoughtfulness that goes into your blog, and I appreciated that. I don't know if there's anywhere where you like people to follow you, or are you active online?
Yeah, you can find me on X, Cool, my last name Kul, and then Phil, Phil. Cool Phil is my handle there. You could also find me, my podcast is Business 300. So that's 300 seconds about business. I do twice a week, release just 5-minute episodes for business people for different topics for them to consider and help them in their business endeavor. So that's Business 300 is my podcast.
Thank you for that. So that's Business 300 podcast, and I'll put a link for his blog, and you can follow him on X at Cool Phil, Kul Phil. Thank you so much, Philip. I look forward to speaking to you again when your book comes out. If you'd give us that time, that would be lovely.
Yeah, it's been a delight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.